Yesterday was all about red states and blue states. Today, it's just a sea of red. Let's talk to Agnes Crane from Reuters Breaking Views. All right, Agnes, sea of red. We're talking about the markets today. Look at that. Down, down, down. The Dow down over 300 points. Of course, also Mario Draghi's comments not helping, saying Europe is still very weak.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, I look at this and I kind of see it as like a back to reality. There was a lot of people focused on this election. It was very close. A lot of polls were showing it close. Now that that's out of the way, people are focusing right back to the fiscal cliff.
Right.
And as you mentioned, Europe, which still has not been resolved.
Right. Are we going to get through that gridlock in Washington for the fiscal cliff? Let's look at the sectors actually that are weighing on the S&P. Financials leading the way there, down 3%. And we can go directly to the banks. Let's see how the banks are performing. Those fat cat bankers, as Obama said,
are not liking today.
Not liking today. B of A down almost 6% there, and a bunch of them down over 5%. Morgan Stanley.
Morgan Stanley, exactly. And again, when you look at this, and particularly the fact that Morgan Stanley is like underperforming here, it's focusing on the big picture of what this means for banks. I mean, again, we have the fiscal cliff that if we go over that, it's bad for the economy, it's bad for banking.
Could put us back in recession, spike unemployment again.
Exactly, and then it's also Dodd-Frank, right? I mean, if Romney had won, there was a possibility that some of the Dodd-Frank rules would have been repealed. That's now off the table, so that's also bad for the banks.
Okay, let's talk the 10-year Treasury then. Does the sell-off mean that folks are going into bonds?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, again, this big macro view of just, now we have all this uncertainty about the fiscal cliff, are we going to go into recession? Are we not going to go into recession? So what we're seeing in the 10 years, again, is like pricing the economy, and people are concerned about growth. So we're seeing that. I mean, but the flip side of that is lower interest rates is stimulative, right? So that could somehow, give at least some people a boost.
Absolutely. Okay, Agnes Crane, thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to move here to the hotspot. As I do, remember to check out the snaps at the bottom of your screen for more headlines of the day. And as I move here, I'm going to talk about the healthcare sector. Now, insurers who largely distribute through Medicaid, well, they're up slightly today, like Centene, because, of course, the Affordable Care Act now is entrenched and continues to go into further effect. They will do well. There are some of the larger employer-based insurance companies, though, like Aetna, United Healthcare, MetLife. Red arrows on them, and you can see Centene as the one with the big Medicaid program is the one green arrow there. Moving on to hospital stocks. Well, hospital stocks are up under the presumption that as more people become insured under the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, their costs will be less. Makes sense? Makes sense. Okay, see green arrows there. I'm going to move now back to the Market Monitor and meet up with Ernie Scheider, our Reuters correspondent here. Ernie, let's talk about coal, because this is really presumably the clean energy president. Now he's in there for a second term. And look at that, lo and behold, look how much some of these coal companies are down today, Arch over 12%.
Huge drops, as you say, Lisa. So Obama has been accused of waging a war on coal by many in the coal industry, and basically there's concern that he would just basically continue to encourage renewables at the expense of the coal industry. So what we do know is, look, about 33 gigawatts of coal-fired electricity is going to go offline in the next few years. It's about 3% of total U.S. power capacity. So that's a lot of coal that's going to be going away. So as a result, you look at shares today, Alpha Natural, Arch, like we were saying, all down. And this is an industry that trades very heavily on political movement. During the first presidential debate, Mitt Romney mentioned coal once. The next day, all these stocks shot up 5–10%. So very sensitive to the political discourse out there. And a lot of coal investors are very worried about where the industry is going.
All right. Similarly, with oil, everybody's down in the oil company. Obama wants less reliance on oil.
Yes, and also less drilling on federal lands and in federal waters out there right now. Obama also wants to increase regulation and also decrease federal subsidies toward the industry. So as a result, that's clearly weighing on the industry today.
Okay, let's look at some defense stocks, because we know Mitt Romney often talks about, as we said, more horses and bayonets, we joke, but that he was going to increase the defense spending. Obama, not so much.
Yes, Obama's been very open about, wanting to streamline the Department of Defense and, look for ways to cut costs as well. We also have the fiscal cliff coming up, which could take a big chunk out of the Department of Defense budget. So, if you're a large contractor for the Department of Defense, like a Raytheon or, a Lockheed Martin, you're kind of pretty nervous today about what this means for down the road for spending there.
All right. Conversely, though, gun stocks are up today, and this has happened before, under the presumption that perhaps there'll be more gun regulation. So they think a spike in sales, you're going to go out and buy your gun today?
Perhaps, yeah. Who knows? We saw the same thing in 2008 after Obama won, literally the day after a lot of these stocks jumped. And actually, people actually went and bought more as well. So I was reading one analyst note today about Olencore, which they make the Winchester bullets. He came out and he said, look, this is a positive sign for them. So it's an interesting take.
Well, if there is gun control, I guess Somewhere Charlton Heston might be turning in his grave.
From my cold, dead hands.
Ben-Hur himself, we had to do it.
Got to do it.
Okay, Ernie Schneider, thank you so much. Remember, for more headlines of the day, check out our Twitter feed, that's @Reuters Insider, and the videos on our YouTube channel, Reuters.com/Reuters TV. I'm Lisa Bernhardt, and this, of course, is Reuters.